Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here doing this training. My name is Haley Ingram. I'm the founder of Coffee and Contracts. We help real estate agents attract clients on Instagram. And I'm just thrilled to be here talking about knowing your ideal client. And we're going to talk about not just knowing your ideal client by their demographic or their label, but truly understanding your ideal client and what type of content works on social media. So I have some slides I'm going to share today. So we'll get those up on the screen and we'll get into it. All right. So one thing I want you to think about before we get into this is who is your ideal client? So you can write it in the chat if you're watching live or just think it to yourself. It's okay if the answer is, I have no idea. We're going to figure that out today. But just who is your ideal client? Who comes to mind? Are you thinking of a demographic like first-time buyers, downsizers, upsizers, or are you thinking something specific like Kelly is my ideal client? She's a 32-year-old mom in my city renting and she's ready to move up. So think about that before we dive in. Typically, what we see is every answer comes out as a demographic. When I ask this question, most of the time I hear things like downsizers, upsizers, luxury clients, or whoever has a pulse and breathes and can eat and can buy a house, which is totally okay. I think one of the biggest misconceptions that people have about ideal clients and niching down is that you're going to be excluding people by choosing a certain demographic. And that's not the case at all. It really is the opposite of what we're doing here. So today I'm going to talk through a little bit of what that actually looks like. So quick story of what having an ideal client can actually do for you. So this is Marianne. She is a Coffee and Contracts member in Baltimore. And for 2 years, she was posting just generic real estate content. She was just posting just to stay consistent. She didn't have a person in mind, but then she picked her person. She picked moms in Baltimore County with the price range of 600K to $1 million. And she started to see insane results. So now she has 9 million closed and 7 million in the pipeline from Instagram in 18 months. And as you can see her content here, it's not educational real estate content. It is content that moms in Baltimore are going to send to their friends, send to their spouse, save for later, and follow her for more of. So that's really the shift that I want to talk through today, is how you can stop thinking of your ideal client as a label. Think of them more as a person scrolling social media, because that's what they are. So an ideal client is not just announcing who you're working with. I see a lot of people say, okay, my ideal client is move up buyers. So in my Instagram bio, I need to put helping move up buyers. This is actually doing the thing that everyone is so afraid of by sending people away from working with you because you're announcing that you're just working with move up buyers. But you can still have your ideal client be move up buyers and attract people who are outside of that specific demographic by speaking to the type of content that your ideal client actually wants. So the shift here is from, instead of labeling helping move up buyers or labeling your ideal client, you're shifting to speaking to what that person is actually interested in. So those could be things like the hottest waterfront listings in St. Pete, sharing the best things to do here. So that is one myth that I see a lot with ideal clients. Number two, it's not naming them in your hooks. This is another huge one. I think when people think, okay, my ideal client is first-time buyers, so my content's going to be educational content for first-time hires. So this is things like 3 tips for first-time buyers or how to know it's time to buy your first house. And while that content may be educational and valuable, it's not interesting to 99% of people on social media, even your ideal client of first-time home buyers. You need to remember that people are just scrolling on social media, even if they are a first-time time home buyer, they're scrolling for entertainment, they're scrolling for inspiration, they're scrolling to take their mind off of things. They're not going to be interested in educational content like this, even if they are thinking about buying right now. It's not automatically interesting to them just by putting their label in the hook. What's actually interesting to them and people that are outside of that is the sharing listings that are interesting to that demographic rather than just sharing educational content. Thank you, Kristen. She said, such a great shift. So yeah, this is the shift here. It is a lens that you should look at your ideal client through, not a label. It's just knowing who you're talking to, and nobody sees that filter except for you. Another thing that I kind of touched on this, but another thing that I want you to think about is your person isn't in the market. She's on a timeline. So the same woman who is going to buy a house in 4 years, you want to reach her now. She's only going to be an active lead for like 90 days at the end of the timeline, but she's on Instagram this whole time. So the educational content only works when she's at this point in the timeline, when she's about 1 month out. This is the only small sliver of time that she's actually thinking about real estate. All the other, points of time here, she's not thinking about real estate. So the key is to capture her follow at the beginning when she's renting, when she's dreaming, whatever that is for your person. The key is to post local and listing content that interests her so that you capture her follow. And by the time she's picking her agent, you're already the one that she trusts and calls because she's been following you for 3 years. All right, so now let's do this for you right now. So I have a prompt for you guys that you can use in ChatGPT or Claude, or you can just do it yourself without using AI. But what we're going to create is something where you're really getting an understanding of your ideal client beyond just the demographic. So you want to know a sentence that describes this person. So this example here is Jess, 32, renting with her fiance, dreams of living in the historic district, scrolls reels at 9 p.m. Now I want you to identify her 9 p.m. scroll. What's capturing her attention when she's half watching Netflix on the couch and scrolling on her phone? She's probably sending house tours to her fiance and saying, oh my gosh, can you imagine? She's saving date night spots. She wants to see what's opening up in her area. This is the content that's going to capture her and get that follow. What is she concerned about? What are her desires, her pain points, her questions? Now, these can be real estate related. What is her concern? So are we just throwing money away renting? What if we buy and prices drop next year? Could we afford in the historic district? So really thinking through your ideal client's thought process and what they are asking, what they're thinking about, what they're dreaming about, what are their concerns, and writing those down. And then the filter. So a checklist for you to run content through before you post it. Would Jess stop for this? Would she send this to her fiance? Would she send this to her friends? Does it hit her fear, desires, and emotions, or is it just educational? Does it still work for anyone else scrolling past? So this is important too. You don't want to say, hey, Jess, 32, renting and wanting to live in the historic district. It should still be broad enough that it's not going to just flop on social media. That's the problem with those posts that are like 3 tips for first-time home buyers. Everyone just scrolls right past. You need to grab attention with the majority of people. Does it sound like me talking to Jess or an agent talking to everyone? So is it super generic or does it feel really specific? So going back to like Marianne's examples where one of her reels was Baltimore moms, here's what to do when it's raining outside. She's providing a list that's super helpful for Baltimore moms, not just an agent, shouting out to everyone. So you can scan this QR code for the prompt. It's just a simple prompt that you can put into ChatGPT or Claude that will guide you through these questions. And I'm going to walk you through these questions as well. But whenever you use this prompt, It'll ask you questions one by one, so you can think about one at a time, and it'll guide you through until you create a document around this. So this QR code will be available on the slides. So step one is to write your last 10 clients. Now, if you don't have 10 clients, if you're a newer agent, or if you just want to kind of start from scratch, if you're a new agent, swap it with the last 10 real estate conversations that you've had, or you can swap it with your dream clients. Who is the person that you're really dreaming about working with? One thing to consider here, if you're dreaming up your list and you're dreaming up these people, is that it really helps if your ideal client is a version of you, whether that is a past version of you, a future version of you. It really helps because when, for example, for Marianne, she's a mom in Baltimore, and she's speaking to moms in Baltimore. So she's sharing from her personal experience. She is someone who's moved up houses. What experiences you have can really make you have a great ideal client that your content will just resonate with them so much because you're sharing from your personal experience. So keep that in mind as you're writing your list. Then once you've created this list, just put a star next to the clients that you want to clone, the ones that you want to repeat. Those people, they were amazing to work with, they trusted your advice, they were awesome, and you want to work with them again. Put a star next to those people. Then step two is to look at those starred names. What do they have in common? What life stage are they in? What price point are they in? Is there a certain neighborhood they're interested in, a property type that they're interested in? What are their concerns and worries and dreams and desires? So think through it. Sometimes, like, you may be like, okay, well, this guy's like, he's an older single gentleman, and then this is a young couple. How do those people have things in common? But they probably both are concerned about prices. They don't want to make an expensive mistake. They might like a certain neighborhood. So really think through what they have in common and think about one pattern. And if you're live, drop it in the chat, and just lock it in, or just think it in your head, write it down, drop one pattern that you notice. Now, step three is to build out their profile. If you're using the prompt, this will guide you through this. And this is a really simplified version of how deep you can really go into understanding your ideal client. But the profile is what I showed earlier. So the sentence, one sentence describing them as a real human being. So having someone that you're picturing in your head is super helpful because you think about that person as you're creating content. So when I'm creating content for Coffee and Contracts for my business, I have an ideal client that I picture in my head who is an agent struggling with social media, who's wanting to grow and attract clients. And I think about her when I'm creating content, which really helps me to speak directly to her and to get clarity in what I'm posting. So think about that in the sentence. The 9 p.m. scroll. So paint the picture of what this person is actually doing on Instagram at night. This is one of the most important things to look at, as funny as it is, when you're creating content for this person on social media. What's going to grab their attention when they're swiping? So local events, new businesses opening up, local guides for moms, listings that they would be interested in, neighborhood tours of neighborhoods that they're interested in. And even it can be educational content that you sprinkle in about how to buy in specific neighborhoods, or maybe a market update that you may be able to buy for less than you'd expect in a certain neighborhood. Like, what is going to grab their attention? And this will just help you to really create content that speaks to this person. Number three, their words. So the top 3 questions and fears about buying or selling, written in words that they would use, not industry language. So these are things like, can I actually afford in that neighborhood? Or I wonder if there's anything on the market that I could afford. Or I wonder if there's anything with a backyard in that neighborhood. And just what are the questions that they're asking? And it's not industry jargon. It doesn't have to be things like, I wonder what interest rates are doing. Yeah, everyone's curious about interest rates, but there's some more specific questions that they're likely asking that are holding them back from achieving their real estate dream. Number 4, the filter. 5 quick questions that you can ask before you post to make sure that it fits your ideal client's profile. So that's the exercise. This will really help you get clear when you're creating content for your ideal client. And I'm going to go to the next page, but I'll have that QR code at the end again if you guys missed scanning it. But I wanted to show you how this really can make your content become unique. And I know a lot of agents use content memberships like Coffee and Contracts. And it's one of the things that really helps you to create content that looks completely unique to you, does not look like a template, and speaks directly to your person so it performs better. So this is an example of where a template may say top 3 mistakes I see relocators make when they move to blank. You can change that to say the top 3 mistakes I see people make when they buy waterfront homes in St. Pete. So now it's super specific. I can talk about the things that people should be aware of when buying waterfront homes, because that's my ideal client, that's my niche. And now it's way more specific, way more beneficial for my ideal client. So next, I want you to open your profile and scroll it as your ideal client. This is a super helpful exercise because I think sometimes we just get in the kind of day-to-day of posting content on social media that we don't really think about it through that lens. So look at your last 5 posts and ask if your ideal client would stop for these, send them, or save these posts. And I wanted to leave this prompt here for you guys so you could scan it, but feel free to drop your questions. I'd love to answer anything if you guys got stuck along the way on this, or if there's been any questions. I know this was a short one. I wanted to leave some time for questions, audits, whatever feels good. So yeah. Love this. Being super specific to who you're speaking to is key for sure. Love that, Mary Catherine. Thank you. Courtney said, I love this exercise and I've actually never done this before. Awesome. Yeah, this is a really helpful exercise to really get clear on who you're speaking to and just create content that actually stops the scroll and gets the follow from your ideal clients. Kristen said, we love our CNC account. Ooh, love it. Love it. Yeah, I did put a link for our free trial here. Feel free to check us out and grab that ideal client prompt as well. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, if any blockers on the ideal client thing, we can keep chatting through it. I can look at Instagram profiles too, if you guys want an audit. But yeah, happy to chat more through it. I think there's another case study that we've done as well on our blog on Giovanna Florentino. She is an agent in South Florida, and her niche, I would say a niche is kind of more of like waterfront homes or a specific kind of like property type. Her niche is like horseback riding. She's a horseback rider. Her family is like in that world. So she decided to niche down into like horse properties. Super, super cool. Check her out on Instagram and you'll see her content, and the way that she customizes templates is just super cool. And it works so well from her. The story that we did on her was an example where she took an expired listing that was in that niche. It was like a horse property, and it was expired. It didn't sell for like a very long time. And then she sold it in like 4 months, I want to say, from Instagram. The reel that she did of that horse property got like 1 million views, and it's because she's building up this audience in this niche. All of her content is relative to people that live in it's Wellington where she lives, if anyone's familiar. Wellington, horse people. So it's a really, really great case study for how niches and ideal clients can work. Try to think of another one, but Marianne's is a really good example too, because it is moms, and she is a mom. She's speaking to people who are just like her, who have been in her shoes, or she's been in their shoes. And I think that is really, really one of the most important things to consider when you're thinking about your ideal client. I think a mistake a lot of people fall into is thinking, Okay, well, billionaires will be my ideal client, or, just luxury. I'll just do luxury. That's my dream client. And yes, while, being a luxury agent is dreamy and amazing, everyone wants to sell to luxury people. I think it's really getting clear on, even if this person is a luxury client, what are their desires? What are their pain points? What are they doing when they're scrolling their phone at 9 p.m.? And another thing too, like we talk about this through the lens of Instagram, but if you are someone who is on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook groups, it's important to think about it through that lens as well. Because some ideal clients aren't on Instagram, they're on Facebook. Or some ideal clients are the people that are searching on YouTube how to buy a house because they love to research, and they're very tactical, and they want to find the person who's sharing the best information on YouTube. So that's something to consider as well. If you guys have any questions, or feel free to drop your ideal client in the chat as well. And I'd love to chat. Would love to cover anything that you guys want to go over. I know we have about 9 more minutes, I believe. I can just keep yapping until the questions come in about ideal clients. Kristen said, the prompt is great. I will share it in the chat for replays. Awesome. Yeah, the prompt is super helpful. It will guide you through that discovery, and you can go back and forth with it to continue to ask questions, to continue to brainstorm, get content ideas, hook ideas. In Coffee and Contracts, we have a Claude connector. We're actually in the Claude directory now. So if you are a Claude user and you have this in Claude, then it's really cool because you can say, pull up the post for today in Coffee and Contracts and tell me how to customize it for Kelly. Okay, gotcha. Kristen said, keep yapping, because a lot of the watches come through the replays, not the live. Gotcha. I'll keep yapping away. I can show you guys some more examples, or we can go, I can look at more of the case studies. I'll just keep yapping. Yeah, so the prompt is super helpful. And yeah, the Claude connector is very helpful whenever you're using AI to help you kind of think through the lens of your ideal client. I think that's one of the things that it becomes super helpful for, is not creating content from scratch, but it becomes helpful to be able to kind of think through what your ideal client's thinking and put it through their lens. So some examples of ideal clients, I think a one that I love is, what have you experienced in terms of your real estate transactions? So have you bought a house in a particular area or neighborhood, or do you own a house in a particular neighborhood or area? Have you relocated to your city? That's a huge one. I think if you relocated to your city, it's super helpful to help other people that are also thinking about relocating. Have you sold a house and moved up into a bigger house, or have you sold a house and downsized into a smaller house? Those are a lot of things that you want to think through when you're considering your ideal person. It is just super helpful when you have that experience. When I was a new agent back in like 2018, my ideal client at the time was first-time home buyers, because I had never bought a house. And that made me a little bit uncomfortable sometimes as a new agent in a new city. I was like, the people that I would feel most comfortable helping are first-time home buyers, because that's kind of the boat that I'm in. I think if I were to get back into real estate right now, I have bought a house in a neighborhood that was on the water and it flooded. And then I moved into a different neighborhood. So I have a lot of experience in buying a house on the water and flood. Like, there's a lot of things to know about flood insurance, and then what happens in hurricanes, what happens once your house floods. So I think that's something that I would specialize in, is waterfront. I also just think that's one of the most special things, is to be able to kind of have that property on the water. So I think I would be really passionate about it. So I think that would be my ideal client. Anytime I'm doing an example like I did with this one, I always use that as the example because that's what I would do. That's what I would want to do. So those are some things. Also, another thing to consider is your background, your experience, like if you had a career before real estate. So Marie Lee moved me to Tennessee. She was a teacher before she was a real estate agent, and a lot of her content is like very educational. She focuses on relocators to Nashville. She relocated to Nashville herself too, but her content is really around like being that educational resource. And I know I have said stuff about educational content, but she does a really, really good job with it because it's not just generic graphics. It's like very unique, very engaging. Like she was doing a series on like teaching things as if she was a caveman. So she was like speaking in caveman speak. So check out Move Me to Tennessee. Her ideal client, the last we chatted, was relocators. But I think since then she wanted to make a shift. She's been absolutely crushing it. She's been doing a lot of listings, and she shares a lot of the stories of how she went above and beyond for that listing. She does such creative, cool marketing. So definitely check her out. I'll try to think of some other people that have cool niches or ideal clients. Yes, Marie is super sweet. She is the bomb. So who else has some good niche ideal clients? I think Celine Hanna, she's an agent in Orange County. She does a lot of really good talking head style videos. Her dad was a real estate agent, so she's like a younger real estate agent, but she's been in the business for quite a while. And she does a lot of really good educational content around like the different things you should know about buying a house in California. And they do really, really well because I think it's so specific to the pain point of like, can I actually buy a house in California? Which is like what everyone in California thinks. Is it even worth it at this point? The prices are so insane. Are there any workarounds? A lot of her content is around like really great workarounds for buying a home, lesser known things that you can tap into. And so that's Celine Hanna. She is awesome. Kristen said Gretchen Kingma has great niche content. So yeah, we're about at the end of time today. I really hope that this was helpful. I hope you guys walk away feeling more clear on who your ideal client actually is beyond the label. And I hope that you see the power of speaking to your ideal client and your bio on Instagram and your content on Instagram, not just the label, but speaking to their pain points, their desires, and even just what they're interested in locally, the local guides that they would save for later, that they would send to someone, the listings that they're going to send to their spouse, their friends. That is really, really key in creating content that helps you grow your audience filled with future clients and convert them to clients when it is time for them to buy or sell. All right, guys, thank you so much for having me. You can connect with me on Instagram at Coffee Contracts or my new Instagram, my personal Instagram at It's Haley Ingram. Thank you guys so much. And hopefully I'll see you again soon. All right. Bye, guys.